She almost turned back at the door, soaked by the rain and her own doubts. But when their eyes met across the restaurant table, the world seemed to hush, and neither of them would ever be the same again. Now let me tell you how this incredible story unfolded. Subscribe, share your heart in the comments, and tell me where you're watching from, because your support keeps these stories alive. Now, let's begin. Lena Carter adjusted her jacket for the third time, glaring at her reflection in the rain-spattered restaurant window. Blind dates are for people who still believe in luck, she thought. She wasn't one of them. At 32, her world revolved around her 7-year-old son, Noah, not romance. Between her job at the community center and school drop-offs, love had become a luxury she couldn't afford. Or perhaps, she admitted quietly, something she no longer trusted. When her friend Tessa begged her to just go, it'll be fun, Lena caved out of exhaustion, not hope. Yet now, as she stood in the entryway of the Willow Cafe, watching couples laugh over candlelight, she felt like an intruder in someone else's fairy tale. A waiter smiled. "Table for two?" Her voice caught. "Yes, I think so." He led her toward a corner booth. Sitting there already was a man, large, broad-shouldered, with a kind but wary expression. His neatly trimmed beard framed a face that carried both humor and hesitation. He stood when she approached, his movements careful, polite. "Lena?" he asked, his voice low and surprisingly warm. She nodded. "You must be Evan." They shook hands, brief, uncertain. She noticed the slight tremor in his fingers before he withdrew them. For a moment, neither spoke. The soft hum of jazz filled the silence, along with the clinking of cutlery and distant laughter. Finally, Evan smiled, breaking the tension. "Well," he said, "I promise I'm not as awkward as I look." Lena laughed lightly, grateful for his attempt. "That's reassuring. I was about to say the same." Their menus became shields between them, both pretending to read. Lena's mind raced. He seems nice, too nice. She had expected someone loud or boastful. Instead, there was gentleness in his tone, a patience that disarmed her. Evan cleared his throat. "So, you let your friends set you up too?" She looked up, smirking. "More like they ambushed me with enthusiasm." He chuckled. "Yeah, my buddy said I needed to get out more. Apparently, work and dog-sitting don't count as a social life." The ease of his humor drew her in. Beneath his self-deprecating jokes, she sensed something tender, the kind of kindness that hides beneath years of being underestimated. Still, a voice in her head whispered, "What am I doing here?" The waiter returned, breaking her spiral. "Anything to drink?" "Water, please," she said quickly. Evan ordered the same. As the waiter left, Lena caught him glancing down at his napkin, folding it with careful precision. Something about that small act, nervous but composed, tugged at her chest. "So, Lena," he asked softly, "what made you say yes to this?" She hesitated. "I think I just got tired of saying no." He smiled, eyes warm. "That's a brave kind of answer." The rain outside grew heavier, the windows fogging slightly. Conversation flowed haltingly, small details about work, about Noah, about his job managing a local radio station. Each time laughter flickered between them, Lena felt her guard lower, just a fraction. Then came the question that shifted everything. Evan glanced down at his drink. "Can I ask something? You don't have to answer." "Sure." "When you saw me, what was your first thought?" The air thickened. She wanted to lie, to say she hadn't noticed, but something in his eyes, so open and expectant, pulled truth from her. "I thought," she swallowed, "I thought maybe my friends were trying too hard to find me someone safe." His expression didn't change, but the flicker of hurt behind his calm was unmistakable. He nodded slowly. Safe. That's an interesting word. I didn't mean... It's okay, he said quickly, though his tone betrayed him. I've heard worse. Shame burned through her. She wanted to reach across the table to undo the weight of her own words. I'm sorry. That came out wrong. He gave a small, weary smile. No, it came out honest. Honesty's rare. Don't apologize for it. The silence that followed wasn't cold. It was heavy with things neither knew how to name. Outside, thunder rumbled faintly. Finally, Evan leaned back, voice softer now. You don't owe me comfort, Lena. Just be real. That's all anyone ever wants. Something inside her cracked. Not a wound. A wall. She nodded slowly. Okay. I can do real. The waiter arrived with steaming plates, unaware that something deeper had already been served. Vulnerability. As they ate, the conversation shifted. Gentler now, almost tentative. They spoke of books, of music, of life's smaller joys. Evan made her laugh again, truly laugh, and she caught herself wishing the night wouldn't end so soon. By the time dessert arrived, the rain had softened into a whisper against the glass. Lena glanced at him and saw, not the man her friends had set her up with, but someone who understood quiet loneliness, because he lived it too. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone at a table for two. Do you believe first impressions ever reveal who someone really is? Or do they just mirror our fears? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. When the waiter returned with the check, Lena reached for it, out of habit more than intent. Evan raised a hand, shaking his head gently. Let me, he said. I invited you into this awkward evening, remember? She smiled faintly. I think we were both drafted. Outside. Rain drummed harder against the windows, blurring the city lights. As they stood, thunder cracked overhead, followed by the low groan of wind. The hostess peeked out the door and frowned. Storm's really picking up, she said. They're asking people to wait it out. The roads are flooding. Lena sighed. Perfect. Evan chuckled. Well, looks like we're officially stuck together. They retreated back to their table, now littered with empty plates and half-melted candle wax. The soft glow of the lights made everything quieter, closer. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Evan leaned forward, elbows on the table. Okay, he said. We can either sit here in awkward silence until the rain stops, or tell each other something we don't usually share. Lena tilted her head, curious. Like a confession? Exactly, he said with mock gravity. Something honest, no filters. I'll go first. He paused, gaze fixed on the flickering candle. People assume I'm comfortable with myself because I joke about my size. Truth is, it's armor. You laugh first, so no one else gets the chance. His voice softened. It's strange how small the world feels when you take up more space than people think you should. Lena felt something twist inside her. There was no self-pity in his tone, only quiet exhaustion. She reached for her water, buying time. That sounds lonely. He smiled faintly. It is, but it's safer than pretending it doesn't bother me. The silence stretched, tender and fragile. Then Lena exhaled slowly. My turn. She traced her finger around the rim of her glass. When Noah's dad left, everyone said I was brave. But truth, I was terrified. I thought if I stayed strong, no one would see how broken I was. Her voice wavered, but she didn't stop. I tell myself I don't need anyone, but sometimes I just want to stop being the strong one. Evan's gaze softened. You don't have to be tonight. Her eyes flicked up, meeting his. The vulnerability between them was palpable, the kind that asks nothing and means everything. They sat like that for a while, two souls confessing to the storm. After a pause, Evan chuckled gently. This might be the most emotionally intense first date in history. Lena laughed too, wiping at her eyes. Guess we're setting records. Their laughter broke the tension, but the intimacy remained. When the rain finally slowed to a drizzle, Evan stood and grabbed his coat. I'll walk you to your car. You don't have to. I want to, he said simply. Outside, the parking lot shimmered with puddles reflecting the streetlights. Evan held his jacket above her as they hurried to her car. The cold air smelled of wet asphalt and rain-soaked lilacs. Lena fumbled for her keys, laughing breathlessly. You didn't have to ruin your jacket. He shrugged. It's seen worse storms. They stood there for a moment, breath visible in the chilly air. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not the plus-size man her friends had teased her about, but someone whose soul felt familiar. Thank you, she said softly. For what? For being kind. I didn't realize how much I missed kindness. His eyes flickered with something unreadable. Hope, maybe? Or fear. Any time, he murmured. Just promise me one thing. What's that? Don't let other people decide who deserves your kindness. Especially not the ones who confuse love with appearance. Her heart clenched. You sound like someone who's had to remind himself of that. He smiled sadly, every day. They said goodnight, awkwardly, almost reluctantly. She watched him walk away through the mist, his silhouette fading into the silver haze of the streetlights. In her car, Lena sat motionless for a long time, the echo of his words circling her thoughts. She felt something unfamiliar stirring. Not infatuation, but respect. The next morning, as she packed Noah's lunch, her phone buzzed. Evan. Made it home safe. Hope you and Noah have a good day. She smiled, typing back before she could overthink. Lena. Thanks. Maybe we should grab coffee sometime, without the rain this time. Evan. I'd like that. That evening, Lena told Tessa about the storm, the conversation, and the awkward goodbye. Her friends squealed with excitement, but Lena only smiled quietly. Something about last night felt too sacred to gossip about. Over the next week they texted, not constantly, but enough. Funny memes, little anecdotes. Each exchange felt like opening a small window into warmth. Then came Friday evening. Lena was closing up the community center when she saw him waiting outside with a cup of coffee in hand. Delivery for the world's busiest mom, he said, grinning. She laughed, taking the cup. You didn't have to do that. I know, he said, but I wanted to. For the next hour, they sat on the steps talking about everything. Life, music, their favorite childhood snacks. With every word, the walls around her heart loosened another brick. As the sun dipped low, Lena caught herself watching him talk, his animated gestures, his warm eyes. And for the first time in years, she felt the impossible, safe, with someone new. When he finally stood to leave, she whispered, Evan? He turned. I'm glad you didn't let the rain stop you that night. He smiled. Some things are worth getting soaked for. The words lingered in the air long after he was gone. Have you ever met someone who quietly saw through your walls, even when you weren't ready to be seen? Share your story in the comments below. For 2 weeks, Lena and Evan's connection grew quietly. Dinners that turned into long walks, laughter that turned into comfortable silence. Even Noah liked him, though Evan never overstepped. It wasn't fireworks, it was peace. The kind that felt dangerous because it seemed too good to last. Then came the brunch. Tessa had invited Lena and a few friends to celebrate her promotion. The restaurant buzzed with chatter and champagne clinks. Someone asked about that date Lena went on weeks ago. She hesitated, but before she could answer, Tessa smirked. "Oh, that? We set her up with that big radio guy, Evan, right? Sweetheart move, though. We wanted her to feel safe." The word safe landed like a slap. The table laughed lightly, not cruelly, but thoughtlessly. Lena froze, her chest tight. She wanted to defend him, to say how kind he was, how real, but the moment slipped by, smothered in nervous giggles and more mimosas. She didn't laugh, but she didn't speak either. And across the room, sitting at a nearby table with a coworker, Evan had heard everything. He didn't move, didn't interrupt, just listened. The laughter blurred into a low hum in his ears. Safe. There it was again. The word that sounded like pity. The one that said he wasn't someone to want, only someone to settle for. When he left, he didn't say goodbye. Lena didn't see him again for days. Her messages went unanswered, polite at first, then worried, then silent. Noah asked once, "Mom, is Evan coming over again?" And she didn't know what to say. Finally, one afternoon, she saw a flyer at the community center, a charity event for the local food drive. Evan's name was listed as a volunteer coordinator. She showed up. The gym was filled with chatter, boxes of canned food, and warm smiles. Evan stood by the donation table, clipboard in hand, laughing with a group of teens. When he spotted her, his smile faltered. "Hi," she said softly. "Hey." His tone was polite, distant. "Can we talk?" she asked. "I'm kind of busy right now." He said, "Please," she said softly. He sighed, set the clipboard down, and nodded toward a quiet hallway. They stepped aside, the hum of the event fading behind them. She spoke first. "You've been avoiding me." "I've been busy," he said flatly. "That's not true." He met her eyes then, hurt and anger flickering beneath the calm. "I heard what your friends said." Lena's stomach dropped. "Evan, they said you felt safe with me, like I was some kind of emotional service animal." "Evan, I didn't say that, I swear." "You didn't have to. You didn't stop them." His words hit hard, sharper than anger, because they were true. "I froze," she said weakly. "It caught me off guard. I didn't know what to say." He exhaled slowly. "You could have said something. Anything." Tears pricked her eyes. "You think I don't know that? You think I haven't replayed that moment 100 times?" He looked away, voice trembling despite himself. "Do you have any idea what it's like to be the person people settle for? The one they call kind, gentle, dependable? Like those are apologies for not being enough?" His confession cracked something open between them. "I never thought that about you," she whispered. "Didn't you?" he said quietly. "Because when they laughed, you didn't look ashamed of them. You looked ashamed of me." The truth stung, because deep down, a small, cruel part of her had felt embarrassed. Not of him, but of being seen differently. She swallowed hard, tears streaming freely now. "You're right. I was scared. Not of you, of what people would think. I've spent so long trying to prove I'm okay. I didn't realize how much I was still living for other people's approval." He stepped back, voice breaking. "And I'm tired of being people's lesson in kindness, Lena. I'm tired of having to earn comfort just to prove I deserve love." Silence. Heavy. Devastating. She reached out, but he stepped away. "Please," she whispered. "Don't do this. Don't disappear." He shook his head slowly. "I need to, for now. Because if I stay, I'll start believing this hurts less than it does." And with that, he walked away, leaving her standing in that empty hallway, the echo of his footsteps louder than any thunderstorm. That night, Lena lay awake beside Noah's sleeping form, the ache in her chest unbearable. She scrolled through their old texts, his jokes, his little check-ins, each one a tiny reminder of what she'd broken by staying silent. Outside, rain began again, soft, relentless, just like memory. Would you fight to rebuild trust after being misunderstood, or let pride end something that once felt real? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. A week passed, then another. Evan's messages remained silent, his absence echoing in every small corner of Lena's days. The coffee cup he once held, the bench they used to sit on outside the community center, the playlists he'd made her that she couldn't bring herself to delete. She tried to move forward, tried to tell herself it was for the best. But the truth was simple and brutal. She missed him. Not because he filled a void, but because he saw her before she knew how to see herself. And she had let silence ruin that. It was a Thursday evening when she found the courage to fix it. She was scrolling through social media when she saw a post. Open mic night, Friday at the Willow Cafe, hosted by Evan Brooks. The same place where it had all begun. Her heart raced. Maybe he wouldn't want her there. Maybe he'd moved on. But something in her chest whispered, "Go anyway." The cafe was packed that night. The rain outside painted the windows in silver streaks, a haunting echo of their first date. People chatted over steaming cups and acoustic melodies. Evan stood near the small stage, setting up the microphone, his familiar navy shirt rolled at the sleeves. Lena hesitated near the entrance, her pulse hammering. When he finally looked up and saw her, his expression faltered. Surprise first, then guarded calm. "Hey," she said softly. He nodded. "Didn't expect to see you here." "I didn't expect to come," she admitted. "But I needed to." He said nothing, only gestured toward an empty chair. She sat, heart pounding as the first performer, a nervous teenager, strummed through a song about heartbreak. When the MC called for anyone else willing to share, Lena's hand trembled as it rose. Evan's eyes widened slightly. "You sure?" She nodded. "It's time I said something real." She stepped onto the small stage, the spotlight warm against her face. The murmurs died down. She gripped the microphone like a lifeline. "I'm not much of a speaker," she began, her voice wavering. "But there's something I need to say, and maybe someone here needs to hear it too." A quiet hush filled the cafe. "I've made mistakes, big ones, like thinking silence keeps the peace when it really just builds walls. Like believing strength means never saying you're scared." She swallowed hard. But the truth is, strength is sometimes just showing up, even when you've broken something you care about. Her gaze found Evan's. His jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. She continued, voice trembling. "There was someone who taught me that kindness isn't weakness, that love isn't about appearance or perfection. It's about the courage to be seen." She paused, emotion thick in her throat. "We all carry scars we didn't choose. But sometimes those scars are proof we've survived long enough to love again." A hush fell so deep it felt sacred. A woman in the front row dabbed at her eyes. Somewhere in the back, a man sniffled. Lena's tears fell freely now. "So if you're listening, if you're out there, I'm sorry for letting fear speak louder than truth. You weren't my safety net. You were my reminder that love still exists for people who think they're too damaged to deserve it." She lowered the microphone, the crowd breaking into soft applause. Some stood, others just stared, wiping at their eyes. Evan stood motionless, until the host nudged him gently. "Go on, man." He walked up slowly, taking the microphone she'd just set down. His voice was low, almost unsteady. "I wasn't planning to talk tonight," he began, "but I think I need to." He looked at Lena, his expression raw. "You said something about scars. I've spent years pretending mine didn't matter. Like if I laughed loud enough, no one would see them. But they do matter. They tell the story of how we learn to stay soft in a world that keeps trying to harden us." He smiled faintly, tears glinting under the lights. "So, Lena, for the record, you weren't my charity. You were my mirror. You showed me I didn't have to earn love by being less of myself." The cafe erupted in applause, louder this time, like a release of everything unspoken. Lena covered her mouth, sobbing softly. Evan stepped forward, closing the distance between them. Under the dim lights, with the rain whispering against the windows, he reached for her hand. "Can we start again?" he asked. She nodded, laughing through tears. "Only if you promise to let me pay for coffee this time." He grinned. "Deal." The audience cheered, but neither of them heard it clearly. The world had gone quiet again, just like that first night. They held each other, the smell of coffee and rain mixing with relief and forgiveness. Outside, the downpour had slowed to a gentle drizzle, a familiar rhythm. Now softer, now healing. Later that night, after the cafe emptied, Lena and Evan sat by the same window where they'd first met. The candle between them flickered, small but steady. Evan traced a finger on the condensation-covered glass. "Funny," he said, "how the rain keeps showing up for us." Lena smiled. "Maybe it knows something we don't." He looked at her, eyes tender. "I think it knows love's not about sunshine. It's about surviving the storms. Together." She leaned her head on his shoulder, the city lights shimmering outside like distant promises. For the first time, there was no pretending, no fear, just two imperfect souls who had finally chosen to stay open. Weeks later, Lena and Evan co-hosted a community event, the same food drive where they'd fallen apart. This time, laughter came easily. People still whispered about that speech at the cafe, but Lena only smiled. She'd learned something precious. Love wasn't about being chosen. It was about choosing, over and over, even when it hurts. As they packed up the last box that evening, Evan brushed her hand. "So," he teased, "still think blind dates are a bad idea?" She laughed. "Only when they don't end in love stories." And with that, the lights dimmed, the world exhaled, and two hearts once afraid of judgment finally found their home in each other. Thank you for staying until the end of this story. If even a single moment, a look, or a word touched your heart, don't just scroll away. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what part made you feel the most. Your words, your support, they're what keep this family of stories alive. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. The next story is even deeper, more powerful, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. Click the video on your screen. Your next story begins there.